Hi, Happy. Welcome to the podcast. How did they get there? Do you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me over here, Dishant. Appreciate it. Really excited to be here. So my name is, in fact, Happy Dudee. Let me start there for anyone who's wondering if that's my real name. So yes, I do put that on my passport. And as our conversation goes on, I'll be able to share more stories about that, about our family and things like that. But the best way to introduce me is, I guess, I'm somebody who's grown up in 3 different countries. I've lived and worked in India, UAE, and the UK. For the past 3.5 years, I've been involved with my current employer, Valuechain, and I've been traveling all over the world, developing partnerships and getting customer acquisition for them. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about about that. And I guess if I have to quickly summarize myself, I'm somebody who loves life. I'm full of energy. I have an indirect pressure to live up to my name, and I guess I do that well. So that's just a very quick
Nice.
summary of myself, but then we could probe into other things.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your role at Valuechain.
Brilliant. So my role at Valuechain is quite interesting. I'll maybe start from a step before that, where it shows you how it developed. I'll start off by saying it's exciting because it's very entrepreneurial. It's almost an entrepreneurial role where I'm the business unit lead for supply chain intelligence. That covers 2 products, Supply Portal and iCluster, and I'll explain in just a bit. But the idea has always been to engage with supply chains and advanced manufacturing in aerospace and automotive supply chains. The idea to connect them digitally, drive intelligence, and produce that benefit that digitalization offers. So over the past 3.5 years, I've moved up from a project management role where I was overseeing a lot of innovation projects over to now doing a lot of business development, pushing it out into the market, that version 0 play in the market. And that's something I get to see. I've also been involved in partnership developments in Australia, South Korea, and similar conversations here in UK and Europe. And so it's a mixed bag, really. There's a lot going on. I don't have a very structured plan. They change. Every day is different. And I think the one word I would use to describe it is exciting.
Nice. So one important question I ask all my interviewees is, do you love what you do?
Absolutely. I think there's no reason to do something that you don't love. And we were exchanging a few words before the start of this conversation. And I think using your time to do something holds immense value, and you have to regard your own time as really, really important. So if it's not giving you fun, if it's not making you a lot of money, if it's not giving you personal satisfaction, if it's not contributing to the world, then it's not worth doing it, I think. And I think those are the 4 spheres of Ikigai, if that's a concept you've heard of before. So yeah, right. I think.
And you are working in aerospace and with a startup like Valuechain. What inspired you, or what led you to joining firstly aerospace and working in a startup?
Well, I think it starts off with my own personality. So I've studied engineering in universities, and I did a master's in aerospace engineering. I have always been an open person. I like to believe I'm good with communication. I can reach out to people. And so those are 2 things that I always wanted to bring together. The interesting bit about digitalization in general and high technology industries like aerospace and advanced manufacturing is the fact that there is a culture change. There's a step change that's coming about right now, where the technology is available, there's a clear way of using it, but we're facing a lot of cultural barriers. And so I did not know this when I joined. At that point, I just purely wanted to be somebody who bridges the gap between business and technology, because I could understand both. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, I've realized that there's a lot more to it. The actual benefit comes from the cultural limitations that you have to come over, the explanation you have to give people, you have to make them understand. And I think that's something that's completely snowballed with me. I'll take another second to just say, like all young kids growing up all over the world, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Mhm.
And so by the time I got into university and I'd spent considerable amount of time enjoying and partying, I realized it was too late to become an astronaut. But then I sort of moved towards it, and I guess that could be one explanation of why I'm in aerospace and why I think it's exciting. So I hope that gives you
Yeah,
an answer.
that's close enough, Eric. It's you're not too far from that industry. And the industry that you are in and the digital technologies that you're dealing with, and with your own role as well
Yeah.
that has grown into value chain, um, there are different challenges you face, and technology is changing every day. How do you learn to adapt or change currently?
I mean, I've personally always taken an approach of talking to as many people as possible. I'm somebody who's not afraid to put myself out there and say things that I'm confident about, things that I'm half confident about, get challenged and improve from there. And I think that's something I take really, really seriously. I think you learn faster compared to studying some material and preparing for structured exams. So that's something I've really taken up. As part of my role, I'm also speaking at conferences. I am, all the way over in Australia, presenting the digitalization journey of SMEs to so many different people. And over time, that confidence builds up. Over time, you can see those dots that so many lovely speakers have spoken about over the years, and they will join themselves. And so I guess the best approach is, I mean, I do read up. There are loads of interesting newsletters that keep coming out, so
Yeah.
you have to keep yourself abreast. But the best benefit I've got is when I've engaged with somebody in a conversation, I've understood what their problem is, I've then gone back and thought about where I've previously applied that or what is possible. And I think that's the space where you actually take that leap forward as opposed to
Mhm.
just remain in the race. So that's something that's really helped me. And obviously you can't let failures set you back. You can't let because you can't be right all the time. So you will
Yeah.
get called out and
Yeah.
you will fall short of logic. I think what's helped me is the thick skin that I've developed over the years living in different countries, where I go in with the aim of just absorbing as much as I can. And I think
I think
that's what's helped me.
owning what you don't know is so important, and if you do that, then I think everybody is there to just help you out, or even just learning from that, because unless you clarify what you don't know to yourself, how are you going to learn, right? um,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
no, I think it's a great point from you as well. And you likely touch upon culture and overcoming cultural barriers as well. How important
Yeah.
do you think, when you were graduating, that
Yeah.
was culture even something that you knew that you would look for in a company, or would you just look for a role and what pay they were offering you?
I have no shame in saying that, especially bachelors, when I completed my bachelor's and you come out of university,
Mhm.
I have no shame in admitting here, and I say this over and over again, I was a guy looking for a job. I did not care where it was. I did not care what it did.
Yeah.
I just wanted some money in my pocket, and I wanted to tell my parents that I'm on my way now and you don't have to worry about me. But what I've found is that the ability to connect with people, the barriers that culture, language, belief systems have created are actually where magic happens.
Mhm.
And so over time, it's, now I'm interested in design, I'm interested in psychology, because these are things that actually help me in my day-to-day job.
Yeah.
And so, short answer is no. I was not aware, and I wasn't thinking of culture. No.
Yeah. But how important do you think that is now, when you have been in the business for some time?
I think one of the most important things is the cultural barrier, and I wanna play two sides to it. The culture, let me just say, culture is the most important thing in adoption of any new technology, and more so with digital technology,
Yeah.
given the concerns about data and other things. The barrier comes in where we've done something a certain way, and we're not comfortable changing that. And even though we see the good, we can't see through the long-term benefit. That's where the barrier comes. Can I just say, let's look at some of the other economies or cultures where they've been more open to embracing digital technology. I want to point towards, far Asia, so Japan, South Korea. People wouldn't think twice about sharing, scanning their faces, sharing their data, and they reap those benefits. So I think, again, from both sides, culture seems to be this common theme that either takes you away or brings you right into the center of that magic. So very important, if I can stress that.
Great. So moving on to our next section, is there a specific book that you've given most as a gift, or 1 to 3 books that have most influenced you?
I'll be honest, it's something I'm trying to grow on. It's something I am trying to do more of. And it's brilliant when I'm engrossed in it, but I just haven't been able to read loads of books till now. It's something I'm still on. But one book that I read, and it was actually one of the first books I read, and I just sort of suggested to everybody, it's not a typical book. It's called Top Visionaries Who Changed the World. It's 50 lessons from 8 exceptional individuals, written by George Ilian. And I recommend that book to everybody because in some ways it's cheating. You're cutting all of that story right down to the 50 takeaways, but it's so inspiring. And again, like I said, it's the common themes that keep resurfacing. Another one that I would suggest, something I and my CEO Tom both are fans of, is Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman.
Yeah.
So for a digital business, that's something that everybody should read, I think.
Great. So I've read Blitzscaling, and I follow Reid Hoffman's podcast, Master Scale, as well.
Masters of Scale. Love it.
No, I think those are really great books. So you earlier touched upon failure. Is there a specific failure or that you has set you up for later success, or a favorite failure of
yours? Wow. So, this is something I've actually grown into realizing and embracing that this is really important. So failure is very, very important. I call myself a second attempt guy. Mm-hmm. Any stretch goal or any ambitious thing that I just wanted and I went after it, I just couldn't hack it the first time. But what I did well was come back from it, understand where I fell short, and then get it the second time. Mm-hmm. And I can go over a number of examples, but for the sake of the time limit we've set today, I'd say the one failure, in fact, one of my first failures, I think that's when you really learn what it's like and the life must go on, is my dad's an army officer. He's been an officer in the Indian Army for the past 30 years. And I've grown up watching him. I wanted to be an army officer. I groomed myself to the age of 18 to become that. I thought I would step right into it because I look, talk, speak, I'm physically fit. And I got there, I got right to the last stage, but I didn't get through. Mm-hmm. And that was my biggest failure. I was sat in that room of 40 people where about 4 chest numbers were called out, but mine wasn't. And it started off with almost disbelief. I can't believe they didn't call my name out. And that's when it starts to slowly set in. So that was brilliant. But I think what it taught me, and it took me a while to accept it, was, we should really be able to center ourselves in times of excitement. It's because everybody around me believed in me and they were pushing me. I kind of rode that cloud all the way to the thing where something I was good in, I wasn't able to perform. There was something off about it that didn't let me through. And something that I've picked up from there is sweat and peace, so you don't bleed in war. So you have to kill yourself when you're preparing for it. Make sure. I mean, I'll take another second to just talk about how, rarely you will see where these transcendental performances where somebody goes out and achieves something that wasn't expected, but majority of the time, magic happens when something you're good at and you can do behind closed doors, you're able to perform the same thing in front of thousands of people and be able to perform. And I think that's something that slowly sort of set into my mind. If I can just do what I do well, that is good. And I can focus on that. So I
think that's great advice from you as well. And I mean, again, you haven't let that thing, affect you, and actually have grown into something that you really enjoy doing. So it's a good lesson learned.
I cried at night.
Do you have a unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
The funny thing about this is when you think about yourself, you feel everything's just normal and it's
Yeah.
hard to pick out the weird thing. But as I'm thinking about it, I think one thing that might be a little more, you know, understandable to you, but especially in this country, I fast on Tuesdays.
Okay.
And, I'm a Hanuman Bhakt. I'm
Yeah.
not very religious,
Yeah.
but it started off clearly with a religious intent. But
Yeah.
I've been doing this since I was 15 years old,
Hmm.
and I've done this for a very long time. I've not missed a single day. But yeah, so let's get to the weird part about it. So it grew from a religious practice. 1 week every 1 day every week I fast. I eat one meal. I have no alcohol, no meat,
Hmm.
nothing. But then I think it transformed at certain point into a self-control practice. So
Hmm.
for me, my logic of doing that was more 6 days a week. I do whatever I want. One day, let me see if I can hold myself back, and I think that's been good. Um, but yeah, I think if I explain it to people why I can't have a glass of beer on a Tuesday evening,
Yeah.
it seems just absurd. And I've had that question, so that's something I wanted to share with you because it's just
I
it,
think that's
again
wonderful
culture, isn't it? It's
to be
different.
able to do that as on a regular basis as well. It takes discipline. I think that's amazing to know. Um, is there any learning that you still carry from school or college till today?
I'm sure there are loads, but I seem to be, and this might be a phase, but I seem to be in this mindset that a lot of what I do and skills that make me earn my bread and the way I treat people is a part of my upbringing, which comes from home and what my parents have taught me and my
Yeah.
family have taught me. I don't mean it in any negative way at all, but I think the maximum going to these lovely universities and awesome schools has taught me is how to structure a report, maybe how to write things in an order, how to leave a margin when you write on the left, and these social norms that you have to follow
Yeah.
to be able to do what you want to do. I think, and again, the facilities have been great and everything's
Yeah.
amazing, but I personally feel it, you know it's an 80-20 rule. I think 80% of what you've learned at home, how you've been brought up, experiences you've had, and about 20% of that structuring and you beating yourself into that form. So I personally think that report writing might be the only thing I picked up from uni.
That's true. Uh, and you've been in industry for some time now, and you've come from India as well, so you know that there's a lot of stereotypes in a lot of different sectors and us. Uh, is there a specific stereotype or a bad advice that you've heard in your domain or in your profession?
um, First of all, there's loads of stereotypes that go around because the first thing we do is we try and come up with a jargon or a thrown around advice that everybody's comfortable with and things. Something that I hear a lot, and I think it's something to focus on is age is inversely proportional to digitalization appetite. So
Mhm.
if you walk into a company and you're speaking to the decision makers, looking at how old they are, you could almost understand if they're going to resist these transformational changes that you're going to tell them. The reality is, in my view, in my limited experience, I
Yeah.
think some of it is actually true. So this is a stereotype which is actually true.
Mhm.
And it's not just because people as they grow older don't want to adopt technologies. It's scientifically proven. The most we can learn is when we're younger, and then our learning ability goes down. And so we tell ourselves we don't want to learn anything new, so we don't want to adopt. But that's something and it's a stereotype that's actually true.
Yeah. I think that's true. It's I think being in the same industry, it's very common to hear that. But I think
Yes, it
it's
is.
also just validating that that you show the usefulness and people agree. I think it comes down to that.
That's it.
Yeah, and
That's it.
uh, you're doing this traveling worldwide. You're dealing with multiple customers. Do you get overwhelmed or unfocused at any point? And if you do, what do you do to bring yourself back?
I struggle with that a lot. I have a lot of energy, and many times that energy isn't channeled. So something that really helps me is exercise. I mean, if sometimes you can't do it if you're in the middle of your workday and things, but if I can, I'll go for a run. 20 minutes, I'll steam it out. I'll just hit the thing and go, and I'll find myself about 4 kilometers away from my house, not angry anymore.
Yeah.
And then I'll just walk back. But I think that really helps get your blood flowing. A lot of the times it's not personal. A lot of the times it's not actually directed.
Yeah.
We just build so much up in our head. But the other thing that I also do is, if I can't go and exercise, is I really challenge myself. A lot of the times you hear somebody say something and your brain tells you, oh, that's a negative point on you.
Yeah.
They're saying something about you. It somehow reflects badly on you.
Yeah.
And so I challenge myself, and I cut off all ties, and I just sit with myself, and I call it talking with Happy. I try and understand how okay. Thanks for giving me the launch pad, Nishan.
Yeah.
So I really sort of talk to myself. I really get deep into what's troubling me and how can I calm myself down. What is the challenge, and what is it that I'm not telling myself? Usually you say, no, this is fine. And then you get angry. And then if you really challenge, you understand. Yeah. So those are two things. I use them in different combinations.
Yeah. No, I think that's some great advice. I think that a lot of people can, benefit by following those things, just taking that time to reflect upon as well, instead of just, giving a reaction. I think that's some great stuff. I'll definitely pick up on that.
I think challenging your bullshit, if I can say that, is that there are places you're just skipping through. If you can challenge your bullshit, I think you can become
exactly. So knowing what you know today, what would you instruct your younger self?
Okay, so knowing what I know today, I would tell my younger self, don't worry about it. No one knows anything for sure. Everyone's winging it.
Yeah.
and that's and I mean that well. What I mean is, when I was young, and I hope a lot of people relate to this, when I was young, I thought you grow up into this perfect human being who can earn money, who can take care of their family. They know exactly what to do in a situation. It turns out that's not actually true. People making mistakes all the time. And if you talk about newer technologies, especially the area we're in, I think there's all ways open right now. And so that's what I would say. I would say, take the leap of faith. Don't be afraid to fail, and just, go after things. There is no perfect way to do anything. Perfection does not exist. You have to make it. So look for the opportunity that can. So, in summary, I'd tell myself to just go for things and not hold yourself back, because that's essentially what will.
I think that's amazing. And I absolutely agree with that. Because, I think I'm growing up, and I still don't think that I am as grown up as I feel I should be at my age. But it's it's a funny experience.
It is, isn't it?
So we are in the current times of COVID, and we are seeing students who are graduating now, and professionals who might be getting laid off, who might need to pivot their careers, upskill themselves. Do you have any specific advice, firstly, for graduates entering aerospace or manufacturing, or basically the business world? And secondly, any advice for experienced people looking to pivot?
I mean, times are so uncertain right now. So I just say we're glad that and lucky that we still got our jobs, because the world's upside down right now. I don't know how the job market will pan out. Obviously, we'll see how that goes. But something I'll tell graduates joining the industry or looking to join the industry is, show that you can take ownership, show that you're conscientious. A lot of the times, especially when we're graduates, we have a habit of just doing my bit and running away from it. And I think speaking from the other side of the fence as an employer, and something that I've seen over and over in interviews we've done and people we're looking to hire, is if we can depend on somebody to do some job, then that's it. And that goes beyond just your skills and your fit into that role. It also says that if you don't know how to do something, you'll come and ask, you'll go and find out, and you'll do what it needs to make sure it happens. So that would be my advice, and I think that's universal. So for an experienced professional, I'd say, because digitalization is growing rapidly, and I think I always think about the Gartner hype graph. So I think digitalization is still in an inflated and in a state where it seems to do loads of things in loads of places. If you're somebody who's coming from an industry into digital or aerospace applications, try and connect those dots. Try to understand where something that's been done here, because it's a high-tech industry. I'll give you an example of additive manufacturing being used for parts that are flying on airplanes right now. Other industries are way behind. Think about how you could use that. And the second thing I would say to experienced professional is, this is something I drive from my own life. When you move into a new clique, new gang, new place, new country, new city, if you want inclusion, and if you want respect, you should be really good at your craft. You have to be awesome for those people, that community, that structure, that team to sort of look at you, embrace you, because you bring something to the table that is just spectacular, whether it is running faster than everybody else or running in a different direction than everybody else. And I think, as vague as it is, that would be my advice.
I think that's great. And I'm sure that, listeners would enjoy and, benefit from this advice as well. So Happy, it's been great, just listening to your experiences and, your thoughts on these things. We've talked about how you got here. Where do you want to get from here?
Oh, okay. So again, I'll take a step back and explain why of where I want to go. I grew up in a middle-class family in India. I went to convent schools throughout, and I grew up and I saw my father go to work every day, and that sort of was always in my head. The best thing you can do for yourself is find a stable career where you get paid at the end of the month, and you go out and do your own thing. My journey from then on, through university, living in Dubai for 5 years, working there for a little bit, coming over to London, spending 2 beautiful years, then Manchester, a year in Bangalore in the middle. And especially, again, shout out to Tom, working with these individuals has really got me excited about an entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's where my next step is. I've always felt I have great ideas. I've always felt that I can explain those great ideas, but I've always taken a step back in letting somebody else do it. And once it's on the App Store, I'll download it and use it. But I think now I want to be on the other side. I am constantly building myself up to a state where I can take that leap of faith and start to invest in some of the ideas I have. So I want to be a business owner in the near future, and hopefully for the better. I want to bring an economic business case, but also I want to make sure it's something that helps people, that brings some value in more ways than one. So that's my goal.
I think that's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your amazing ventures as well. So Happy, I think it's great talking to you. Before we end, any final words?
That's about it, Nishant. I'm very, again, like I said, I'm still very pumped, and thank you for having me over. Because I'm at a certain stage in my career, I'm sure loads of other people with more experience can give us advice. I think what I can give as a leaving gift to the listeners is the energy that I bring with myself every day. And that's what I will leave the viewers with, the listeners with.
Great. Thanks, Happy. It was great having you. Hey listeners, hope you enjoyed the episode. Would love to hear your feedback in the comments section, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe.